Ha! 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 Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Captain James Beaumont. This is Major John Redmane, Sir John Redmane. We're going to talk about the weapons that we are using and a few others as well. The weapons that we have on our hands is known as a small sword. A small sword is a triangular cross-section, and when you actually thrust into someone, it creates a wound that is very difficult to stitch up. When the blade comes out of the person, it also can pull the skin right back in. So there's very little blood on the outside of it itself, but there's a lot of blood loss on the inside. So it makes it very well. Myself and Sir John have on the tip known as a button, but it is also known as a foil. And the reason it is called a foil is because it is there to foil injury. This is a term that has been used since the 16th century. Any weapon that has a tip on the end to foil injury is considered a foil, regardless of the size or shape. Now this particular weapon, it looks rather flimsy in sooth, but you cannot cut with it. It does not actually have an edge on the side. Its main point, no pun intended, is to thrust into your opponent. Now something like this, that's the point of small sword fighting. Right. It only takes about 3 inches to kill someone. If you strike him in between the rib cage, you can pierce his lung, and he will drown slowly and agonizing in his own blood. Now, if you strike him in the heart, death will come quick if he is fortunate. So remember, ladies, the quickest way to a man's heart is between the third and fourth ribs. Indeed. And of course, the face is also very much a formidable target. I read of a duel one time where the loser got struck through the eye with one of these, with such force that everyone watching the fight could easily hear the tip of the blade strike the back of the skull. Obviously, death was instantaneous. Yes, it's very grisly. Something like this is used on the field of honor. Myself and Major Redmane would use this on the field of battle, but only to direct our troops. We would not use it as a primary means of offense. It's what our musket-carrying troops are for. But on occasion, we get to actually use this. In fact, I know of a lieutenant at one point. He was very excited after coming back from a battle, and he was writing home to his family because he actually got to use one of these to kill someone. Wow. To give you an idea. But this is a weapon utilized by gentlemen such as myself and Sir John to settle disputes between gentlemen. And as such, disputes could take any form. We could fight over women.
And money.
And money, that's true.
And wine.
And women.
And
politics.
And
women. Religion. And
women.
Yes. And did we mention women? Indeed. Dueling is considered illegal. So therefore it is done usually outside the city limits, done late at night to the wee hours of the morning. Any authorities are either well distracted or well bribed to keep away. And the reason being is because in a duel, usually they go to first blood. However, there are times when accidents do happen and the other person perishes. And the problem is that when you kill someone in a duel, you can be brought up on charges of murder. So like any other martial art, you have a couple of defenses when it comes to this particular type of sword play. You have the one which is known as the parry. That comes from the Italian verb parere, which simply means to put aside. So if I was here and Sir John were to make a thrust at me, putting aside, pushing it offline, I am completely safe. Wow. Yes, indeed. The other one, and your best defense, is simply evade. The way it is looked at is if you are not there, he cannot hit you. If he thrusts in, he cannot hit me. It as well. Now, when it comes to this type of sword fighting, there is two particularly distinct ways also of doing it. There's a due tempo, Italians call it due tempo, which is double time, and then you have stessi tempo, which is single time. Due tempo does a parry and a riposte. If he comes in, thrusting here and here, it's 1 and then 2. That is due tempo or double time. Then you have the one where it is single time or stessi tempo, whereupon you make a defense and a counterattack at the same time, if not almost at the same time. So as he comes in, I simply remove myself from line of attack and let him run right onto the weapon as such. This is actually called in the Italian un'inquadrata, and it's one of my favorite movements. Now, if you're also close enough to your opponent, you can come to grips, or what you might know as grappling. If I were to be close enough to grab his sword at the hilt, or even his hand, I get to control his weapon at any point.
Wow.
Come in. As he comes in, I thrust here, grab his hand with his sword in it. At this point, I can control this, and I can do whatever I wish with my free, or hand with the sword as such. And of course, other side please, if I want to get very fanciful, I can go ahead and make other grips and grappling, make the thrust lead here, right, around, and strike them from behind as such. Yes indeed. Right? Now, this is all fine and dandy for the field of honor, but as the field of battle, on the other hand, we have, oops, there's that. And there it goes again.
That's a real sword.
They're all real swords. So John has in his hand what is known as a basket-hilted broadsword. George Silver in the late 16th, early 17th century, believe it or not, calls this type of sword a short sword because it is one-handed, right? Now the basket hilt, or let me talk about the blade. The blade is what is known as a broadsword. The broad is sharpened on both sides, so he can make it with the true or the long edge. He can also make attacks utilizing the false edge. It's not as strong as doing it from the true edge, but nonetheless. The basket that surrounds his hand is there to protect it. As such, if a blade should come in and breaking it across here is to protect his hand from any injury. If you get any slight wound on the hand, it becomes useless. You cannot use a sword. And to give you an idea of how well it protects, is that there is a young Scotsman I read about who went into battle with one of these. He was killed on the field, eviscerated from head to toe, cut to ribbons, with the exception of his hand still clutched inside the basket of his basket-hilted broadsword. I'll take the king. Good. The sword I have in my hand is known as a saber. It is curved, whereas the broadsword can make hacking type motions with its blade. I actually have devastating slashing type motions as well. I have to get a little closer to my opponent, but if I were to miss, I can easily come back with the point and strike him there. The curve on this is very good, suited for cavalry work, so on a horse as it were. You also have the advantage of height over an opponent who is not mounted. But this style of base is based off of what is known as a backsword. It is sharpened on one side and it's flat on the other. This, if you were to take a cross section, has a diamond cross section. This has a triangular cross section that would go through a man much like a wedge or a hatchet would split a log. So it's very good for that sort of thing. The other types, in addition to the parry and the evade of this particular martial art, there's one called a yield, whereupon I utilize my weapon and his energy to springboard a counterattack. Other side, if you please. As my opponent comes in, start from open water, if you please. There you go. As my opponent comes in, I slightly move to the side and bring it out just like this, almost in one fluid motion. Now the other type is a block. It works very well, but it's not the best thing for it. And the reason why is because as it comes in, it stops both weapons. Whereupon I have to use a double time in order to move out to make a counterattack. But more importantly, it is very difficult on the weapons itself. these will break if used in excess. Very good. So, Major Sir John Redmane, I am Captain James Beaumont. Thank you for your attentions. We hope you enjoyed our sword play exhibition.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, would you like us to entertain you perhaps with a little more sword play?
Yeah.
To take up.
Bloodthirsty lot, you.
Indeed.
Oh, yay. I love it.
Like gladiators. Shall we entertain you?
Yeah.
I am not Roman. I don't plan to be Roman. There could be Democratic Republic and still would not change the fact that I do not own a horse.
At least you're not Greek.
This is very true. Not French either. Ah! Good shot.
Finish him.
One touch.
Finish him.
Let's do 3 touches.
Oh, this is a friendly bout. Bloodthirsty Chris.
Finish him, indeed. Shall I vivisect you or disconnect you?
Large word there, for sir.
Sounds like salubrious.
Oh, nice evade, nice evade.
He's leaving himself open.
No touch, no touch. I do not like to be manhandled. Come now, sir.
I'll have to report you to my superior officers.
For what? Hop! Ha ha! Came close. You hit my jabot. Once more?
What's that?
Very good.
I think we're 1-1.
Something like that. Touch! Touché, as the French would say. Well done, sir. Well done.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Well played, well played.
Well,